skies are darkening the world, you know. The hills no longer green. Like the animals, your blood will flow. Dreaming of this Christmas.
Smiling wide with empty eyes, I'll find you. You're a lot of fun, just like your friend. You're hiding, but I'm deep inside your mind. You'll die 1,000 times, do you wanna try again? You're tired of running, nowhere to hide it. I'm getting closer every second.
Behind you.
There's so many souls to play with, so little time. Not long till I find you. Run for your life. You're in my world now. You're joining your friends. I'm coming to take your soul. In the end, you can't run.
A being that affects multiple types of media and goes far beyond anything you know about this entity. Zalgo initially wasn't actually connected to Sonic, but his popularity spread to it as such. In this video, we're going to cover his original story and where he originated from. Then I want to talk about the Sonic EXE games he was a part of because they are extremely interesting to me and also kind of hilarious. I've had a lot of requests to talk about this guy, and I've been very curious myself, but haven't been able to find much up until this point. He's a bit of a mystery because so many iterations of Zalgo exist, it was hard to figure out where he started and how he got into Sonic.exe and how it was linked to that. And it's not exactly what you think. I also couldn't find any sort of videos talking about this specific iteration because it's actually just that old. People seem to know who Zalgo is, or at least this Zalgo. You'll look at this and you'll go, but you don't really know who it is. And that's what this video is going to figure out. So let's unravel the mystery of Zalgo and talk about the series of Sonic horror games he comes from, and also the FNF song Last Chance. As mentioned before, this isn't the first version of Zalgo. I'm not even sure if this picture of him is accurate, but it's one that people have been using. Zalgo is made by Shmorky, who's a Flash animator back in the day, and this was one of the giants that stood alongside Slenderman or Jeff the Killer back when creepypastas were extremely popular. And he's actually one of the good ones in many people's eyes. But originally he was a meme, appearing in parodies of newspaper cartoons where characters would invoke the name Zalgo. This was a good template for people to include Zalgo in their own comics, and soon he would spread to numerous different series like a plague. A good way to think of it is, it's basically Pibby before Pibby was a thing. Zalgo's abilities only affect comics, cartoons, and illustrations, not reality itself. The idea has drifted out of favor with more recent stories portraying Zalgo as a powerful demonic being. Zalgo essentially is meant to creep you out, make you feel like something isn't right in the system. In iterations, he infects your brain and drives you to insanity or straight up dismembers you. There was a popular creepypasta written by Chris Phoenix called He Comes, based off of Zalgo that blew up some years ago, and it's actually not bad. It's one of the better creepypastas I've seen, actually, especially from this decade. It's basically the perspective of someone who comes upon this eldritch horror that's plagued his world, where things just don't feel or seem right at all. The things he sees and hears gets progressively weirder as you read on. In one of the scenes, he's around a doctor, and the people in the room all mutter the name Zalgo. The end of the story shows an old video that describes Zalgo and how he's going to plague this world one day. And I gotta say, this guy is sure taking his sweet time because it's been freaking 15 years. Where you at, Zalgo? Now, it is pretty much universally agreed that Zalgo is one of the best creepypastas to be made. Even with all the memes, he stood the test of time until eventually someone by the name of Novaware would feature him in a trilogy of Sonic horror games, the first one being Sonic 2 EXE. These are the games I'm going to cover in this video, along with an additional FNF mod I think is really cool, made by Snow the Fox. That's right, you've never seen this before. And the song is from a now cancelled FNF mod called Rerun. I'll talk about that in the FNF segment. For now, the Zalgo Sonic EXE games actually have a plotline and tells the story of what happens when Zalgo affects the Sonic universe. It's not exactly one-to-one to the main creepypasta, it's actually quite different, and it takes its own creative liberties, but it is still pretty neat. Though initially, in the first game, it said that it's an unofficial prequel to Miss Crimson's Sonic EXE game. This is actually referenced in the games, so let's talk about those, shall we? Sonic 2.exe plays off of the idea of what happens after the bad ending of Sonic 2 for the Game Gear, where Sonic is running off and the camera pans to the sky with Tails giving a peace sign, essentially insinuating Tails died and it's your fault because you didn't collect the Chaos Emeralds to stop Eggman. For a Sonic game, that's pretty dark, but also pretty interesting. Makes you feel like there are consequences to your actions. Sonic 2 begins with that old YouTube video feel with the text from back then. You know the one, surely. It describes what I explained. Sonic made a deal with Eggman. If Sonic got all the Chaos Emeralds and brought it to him, he'd release Tails. But if he failed to do this, Eggman would kill Tails. Then we see this spooky start screen with Sonic and Tails, and upon starting the game we're, well, in hell, I think. Sorry, Tails, you're going to hell. Okay, I'll explain where we actually are in a bit. As Tails, we kind of walk around, collect some rings, and then, yep, that's it. That's an EXE game for you. You are able to jump in this game, but the concept is as Sonic.exe as it gets. After ending the level, Tails lands in some spikes, and I'm reminded of when this game was made because there's a Majora's Mask reference here. I think it's implied that Zalgo also caused what happened with Ben Drowned. But honestly, that's a very loose theory, and the creator probably just wanted to include Majora's Mask. We get another spooky screen with the title now being Sonic 666. Okay, I know it's cheesy and it doesn't scare me, but I've kind of missed these days, I can't lie. Now, if I was a kid, then definitely the next level is Sonic walking to the right until there's a mountain of dead bodies like in the Mist Crimson game. Sonic is then teleported to a staticky place with a black background with stock screaming sounds. We run to the right for a bit until a spooky picture of Tails appears with a slowed version of Can You Feel the Sunshine playing in the background. This level of cheese doesn't stop, and every time something like this happened, I couldn't help but to laugh. Zalgo tells you that the game is over, says the name of your PC, and then says, "See you in round 2. Yeah, there's not much to this game. It's a really quick experience and is meant to be played in tandem alongside the other 3 games. The second game, Sunshine.exe, starts with diary entries written by Eggman, and they scroll by so quickly like who's supposed to be reading this? This is where the bulk of Zalgo's story is revealed and where he comes from in the Novaware games. Essentially, Eggman explains that he's willing to do anything to get rid of that Sonic. It's revealed that he made a deal with a demon in a mirror he found. If he kills Tails, Tails' soul will be brought to his world, and the demon, who is Zalgo, will get rid of Sonic in Tails' body. Tails in the real world won't actually die, but instead be swapped out for Zalgo. Robotnik agrees and sends Tails to this nightmarish realm. Zalgo gets his vessel, but upon release, he immediately starts destroying the doctor's laboratory. And way to go, Eggman. We did not see this coming. And that's the plot for this game. We got our spooky title screen, and we're on our way. This picks up from where Tails died in the last game, but since he can't die in this world, he has to carry on. So he tries to go find Sonic, and to give this game some credit, there is platforming, and I died more times than I want to admit. Some of the landing hitboxes are a bit jank, but it honestly didn't take me that long. Tails finds this conveniently spooky mirror after completing the level, picks it up, and carries on. The next level in this game repeats the same as the last. Each level is short, but the platforming might take a few tries. But the funniest thing happens when you fall off. You get jump scared every time you fall into the bottomless pit. I know it's supposed to be spooky, and I know this was just what games did back then, but when I saw this, I intentionally kept falling off just so I could see the jump scare and the goofy noise it plays. It's so silly, and I love it. The scream doesn't even finish, it just cuts off. After the very scary platforming level, we bump into Sonic, who's in the middle of his squat exercise. But it's a trap. He hits us with the sick one-liner, and we're forced to run away from the Black Bar of Doom. Even when we escape, Zalgo speaks to us and says the name of your PC, and basically prompts you to play the next game. These games, again, don't have a lot to them, but I like that it makes you download different games to follow the story. And if you're curious where the FNF song Last Chance is inspired from, you're about to find out in Insanity EXE. The last and, in my opinion, best one out of the 3 games. It's not like it does anything groundbreaking, but it's the most interesting in my opinion. It immediately throws you into flying away from the Black Bar of Doom once again, and if you lose, you get jump scared. If you played Flappy Bird, then I think you will do great at this section. This is the first time Tails has flew a plane in an EXE game, so I'm gonna give it points for creativity. After beating this level, we're met with a weirdly written segment with some weird music. No disrespect because things were different back then, but there's a part where it mentions, and I quote, "a really mean man." And that just made me laugh. This recounts everything that happened so far, and mentions how Tails had the power to save the world, but he's too young to deal with such power. But in this game, he has a chance to right the wrongs of his friend, and that's where we see the spooky title screen. This time we start as Sonic. He's not sure where he's at, but he does know it looks familiar. Sonic? Have you been hanging around in evil dimensions again? Come on, man, I told you to stop doing that. We actually gotta find Eggman in this dimension. Sonic assumes it's him who caused this, but it's actually, well, Zalgo. He says to look for a way out, and after he disappears into thin air, we venture forward. The platforming is pretty simple, but, you know, we fall for the classic trap of walls blocking our path and the floor falling beneath us. But hey, once we land, there's an old reference if you walk to the left. Man, I miss these days. I do want to give a quick epilepsy warning before this final part, along with an eye strain warning because this part really does that. So watch with caution. Okay, I'm going to show it now. Static fills the screen as the background flashes spooky images and references to both the Zalgo creepypasta and the Mist Crimson game, and this is where it ties into that game. Now, this is where the true eye strain comes. If he's trying to get into my head, it's working, because what is this? We do bump into him in this level though, and he gives us a villain monologue. This is the same thing he says in the Last Chance song, but to summarize, he's telling us that we're just as much at fault as he is. We kept watching, kept playing his game, kept putting these characters into harm's way just to satiate our curiosity. Having the EXE talk to us like this was unique for its time, and I think this is one of the best parts about this game. After completing the level, we switch to Tails' perspective, and he mentions learning about how Zalgo is some sort of hive mind. Venturing forward, and we see a conversation between Zalgo and Sonic, and naturally, Tails wants to rush over there to help. This part will look extremely familiar to some of you, and this game actually has 2 different endings. When you run over there, you see Tails and Sonic. If you run into Tails, you send him into the spikes and get the bad ending, where Sonic jump scares you and opens a page on your browser to a spooky picture of Sonic with an even spookier DeviantArt logo. It also takes you to the Mist Crimson game. If you jump over Tails and hit Sonic, we see Eggman standing at the end of the level. Eggman says he has a way to stop Zalgo once and for all. The plan is to seal him into a body he can't escape, and this just so happens to be Tails' doll. There's a theory that the good ending links to the events of Sonic R, and the bad ending is linked to the original Sonic.exe game, which would explain its ties to the original game and explain how Zalgo is able to escape in the bad ending. This tried to explain Sonic.exe and give us a reason to a lot of other creepypastas, and for that, I really appreciate it. Zalgo is universally loved in the community, not just the Sonic one, but also in general. And this was built upon years later when a playable FNF song came out titled Last Chance in reference to the original game. This song was originally going to be put into an FNF mod that's now cancelled called Sonic.exe Rerun, but as you likely know, it got a playable version to go with the song. And while I really like it, I want to show you guys something you haven't seen. The song you're familiar with, but what if Zalgo could get access to your desktop? What if he got the Sonic rewrite treatment? Well, that's what Snow the Fox version aims to do. This is something entirely new, and it comes from the Confronting Yourself mod, which is getting a complete rework. It's not out yet, but you already know Snow is going to cook to the best of his ability. The song Last Chance will be featured in it and gain the ability to do some pretty cool stuff. None of it's malware. I know some of you guys were worried about that. I'll go ahead and show you what's done so far.
Open your eyes. Sonic, I hope you enjoyed watching all those sealed fates. You knew what was gonna happen, but yet you just watched, didn't you? You had the right to me. Spine, stopping me between the lines. I'm not one to disappoint. I'll draw the marrow from your joints. All your mortal soul's mine. Melt your people as Zalgo.
It honestly looks super cool. The vocals are done by Joey Animations, and I gotta say, this song sounds great. Go check out Snow the Fox, link below, and be on the lookout for an entirely revamped version of Confronting Yourself. Hopefully you guys are familiar with who Zalgo is now, what he comes from, and what inspired the song to be made. He's also being featured in Memory Lane, I believe, and while he's a niche character, I also feel like he's incredibly recognizable, yet no one actually knows what he's from. Hopefully this video solved that. And for those who don't know, Memory Lane is an ASIM game that features not well-known EXEs, or EXEs that have blinks in their story which weren't necessarily finished. This project also isn't done yet, but the link for the Discord will be down below, along with a video where I talk about that and other upcoming ASIM games you should be excited for. And for clarification, Novaware's take on Zalgo is a completely different take to the original, and it unofficially ties into the Mist Crimson game. It's a product of its time, but man, do I like the cheesiness. Subscribe, use my code to get 10% off your cheeky order, and remember...
Spine, stopping me between the lines.